So, where was I? Right. So here you have two people, one a German citizen being very much treated as a second class citizen, um, face so much discrimination, so much antagonization, so much ostracization and persecution, and the the response is always, you know, you're wrong. No matter what, you're wrong. So I'll use a case in point. There were 5 times when we waited in a line. There were way more, but there were these particular 5 times we were in lines waiting for something. And in each of these occasions, we were told that we were at fault. We weren't waiting in the line properly. In the first instance, we were waiting for, what was it? We were in Freiburg and we were waiting on some Thai food, some Vietnamese food. And we were told upon checkout that they didn't take cards and we had to go and get money. So we went to the Geldautomat, which is the ATM, and I took the money out. I told the woman, by the way, upon leaving, leave my things to the side. I'll be right back. She agreed. I saw her put them to the side. We went to the ATM. We took the money out and I came back to pay for the things, knowing already she had put them to the side, wanting to get them while they were warm. Took out my money. There was now another line, or I should say a continued line. And I thought, and they were clearly standing to one side. So I thought, okay, I'll just go, I'll give her the money, I'll take my things and go. When I went to the front of the line to pay for my things, because they already were there, she already knew what we had, she already told me the price, I had the exact amount of money. There was no problem regarding that. I just thought I would exchange the money for the food and leave. When I go to her to do this, the woman ignores me. The people in the line start harumphing and stuff. There's this disgusting, there were several disgusted expressions by one woman in particular. She was very disturbed by the fact that we seemed to just come from nowhere and went to the front of the line. I understood that because, she wasn't there when we were there before. However, the woman who knew that we were there is the one I really take issue with. She, the one who's serving, knew we were there and continued to ignore us because I suppose she didn't want to lose her other clients or upset them. And so she refused to serve us until the very last minute. Okay? So there you have that scenario. Then you have another scenario. We're waiting in line in, again, Freiburg. We are, I actually passed a pharmacy and I saw something in the window about dancing and I was like, okay, I want to do that. Let me go and get a flyer and let me come back and, sign up at the place that's on the flyer. And so I go inside and I'm asking the woman in the window, because there's a woman in the window making the window. And I say to her, can I have a flyer so I can join this dance group? And she says, oh, you have to wait in line. So I say, oh, really? Okay. So I go into the line. I don't want anything in the pharmacy. I just wanted the flyer in the window. She was in the window. I go in the line. I'm waiting. And then the people all finished doing their shopping and it's just me left. And as I approach the counter, this woman in the window jumps off her ladder or whatever while I'm mid-speech telling the woman what I want, and is like, oh, she wants a flyer. She proceeds to go and get the flyer herself and give it to me. At this point, I'm thinking, okay, now they're really like cuckoo here. But I'm beginning to see what's happening. Under current to, you know, various protocols and different scenarios and different, everything. It's not one size fits all. Each experience will be different because, something else, whatever. Bottom line is, I'm the clear outsider asking my questions in English, trying to master the language, or trying to make it with my shaky German through whatever. But I'm the clear outsider. And so as a result, consequently, I come last automatically. And so it doesn't surprise me when we go to another village. We're again in line, this time in a supermarket. My friend is buying something. I am holding her space in the line because I'm like, we have to really go. I'm like, come on, let's go. So I'm in the line and she's going to grab whatever because she's like, oh, you're coming by me? Okay, let me grab this thing and then let's go to my place. So we are in line and I am waiting for her to come. And I see that the guy in front of me is like almost done. So I said to the person behind me, hey, do you want to go ahead? This person goes ahead. And still waiting. She's like, I don't know. She's getting it. The other person is finishing. I said to the other person, do you want to go ahead? The other person goes ahead. And then I see her coming. So I go, ooh, finally. By now, the line is extended some, right? The guy behind me proceeds to push past me, put his milk down, and be like, you're wasting people's time. You're stopping the line. You're not moving along. And I'm just thinking at this point, excuse me? No, motherfucker. I completely let people through when I saw I needed to, that the line was needed to proceed. I let people through, and I would have let you through too if you were nicer about it. But screw you. And I take his milk and I put it back. Anyway, the whole point is, you're never right as someone from another place. And then there's another occasion where I'm in another pharmacy, this time the DM, not quite the pharmacy, but maybe drug store or whatever. I'm inside the DM. I have gotten several whatever, right? Small stuff. And I'm looking for my wallet and I see the woman behind me has only one item and I probably have like 3. So I said to her, while I look for my wallet, why don't you go ahead of me? She thanks me and she goes ahead of me. A man, of course, another man, proceeds to take his stuff and goes in front of me too. I say, excuse me, sir, I did not let you through. I let the woman through and I'm ready to pay anyway. So let her finish and then I will pay. He doesn't care. He goes ahead. He purchases this thing. The cashier totally checks him out and he looks at me and goes, it's not a problem. Again, it's not a problem. Why? Because I'm the outsider. You have so many different scenarios with different things happening. And in each one of these events, and then there's another one, but I can list them off forever. In each event, there's some change, right? They're not all copy and paste, but in every one of these occasions, I am made out to be the bad person or the person who's doesn't understand German society or German culture, right? When the true clear case is one to be made against Germans themselves and how ruthless and disgusting some of them can be, right? Of course, this goes for every nationality too, but it's particularly disgusting here. And this disgustingness is showing up, in how people see you and treat you regarding your rubbish. I live in an apartment. I have a neighbor right across from me. We share the receptacles outside. We share the bins. And the woman downstairs from the rat house is going to come and take pictures of my rubbish and send it to City Hall and be like, she's not doing this properly. Right? You're trying to assimilate, and these people don't make you really want to because they're so disgusting. They're so petty and so pathetic, and they're so used to self-regulating. They're so used to doing their own nonsense that there's really no set rule or set, it's just like everybody will do will enact the culture according to their level of pettiness and their level of meticulousness, their level of professionalism, their level of whatever, their level of their ability to, their capabilities. Each person's capabilities will be, will be different and varied. People will have more patience in one case, and another person may have less patience. And so this is what you're seeing show up in all the different. This is why there's no really set rule. It's also varied. There is like a kind of unspoken rule, but there's so many interpretations of that's what you see showing up in each of those cases. And so you deal with some really horrible people. And so in the case of like racism, we were going to feed the horses, right? There's a corral, and every evening people traverse back and forth, like a thoroughway. And my daughter and I on my birthday decided, okay, we're going to go do the same too. We're going to go walking. We're going to go, see what's to be seen in this countryside. And we're going to come back home. We just wanted a quick, brisk walk. And we're out there. She's eating apples. She breaks in two, or I break it for her. She gives one horse one. She's giving the other horse the apple. And the other horse that already had one tries to take the other half. At this point, the mare bites the other horse, right? And the horse, and there's like he neighs louder, he whinnies, right? And the woman in the house next door, who I presume now owns the horses, comes out and accosts us and says, we are to get off their land. It's not their land. We are to get away, and proceeds to call the police. And she tells him that I was in their garden. I was in their garden, which is far from the truth. And just very disturbing things playing out in front of my child. And so how bizarre when the police today show up regarding the sexual assault, which I now, my daughter really wants to report it. I was telling her, not now, because I really wanted to leave the area before I did anything. However, I feel like I'm failing her because, again, due to my own childhood trauma, I feel like I don't want to be my mom playing out this situation. Bad behavior was modeled for me. I don't want to model this type of behavior. So I go and I say, okay, we're going to do what you want, because she tells me that this boy is continuing to harass her at school. And I say, okay, we're going to do something about it. We're going to report it so there's a paper trail, okay? We go to the place, we report it. And there's this other guy who was there before who was trying to know my business. This other policeman who, when I was trying to know the law, I was asking some questions, and he was upset because I wouldn't answer all his questions. I told him, I don't feel like answering that. I mean, I was coming to them. He didn't accost me on the street, and so or meet me on the street, and I didn't want to overshare with him, and I didn't wish to tell him my business. And so I told him, I don't wish to tell you my business. And when his questions got way too personal, like he just wanted to know stuff. Another policeman also wanted to know stuff and was like asking me about my affairs, and I chose to tell him. But how crazy when later he tells me, everybody who comes here thinks that we're supposed to prioritize their case. And I'm thinking, wow, well, all the time that you just took to get to know my business, about 30 minutes of questions and all that time, you could have actually written the report. He didn't even write the report. When I went to the police station 2 weeks later, he still hadn't written the report. It wasn't in the system. And so it's just this crazy type of, it's not the one behavior from the law. You get different behaviors based on the people you run into. The same way that you get different behaviors on the street based on who you run into. All right. And so this other older policeman who wants to know my business, who I'm not telling him, he's clearly like annoyed by that. And I don't really care because it's not his business to know. He wants to know my personal affairs regarding like sexual things, and I'm just like, it's not your business to know. And but I wanted to know what the law here was regarding some things, and so I asked for my questions to be answered. He sort of answers it, but he tries to like, he tries to persuade me not to press charges or have a restraining order against someone. He's like, oh, it's very complicated, you don't want to do that. Now, I've never been told that by police, like, oh, something is too complicated, so don't take that route. Just go the route of, continued abuse. Yeah. And that particular statement I wanted to make concerned a transsexual. And so transsexuals are like protected in this shrine of you can do whatever you want under the emblem of crazy, and no harm will come to you because, special case. So a transsexual assaulted my child again, this time in front of me. And I was just like, okay, we need to do something about this. And this was the response. Oh, it's just, lassish, it got just, yeah. And it is really very interesting to see how the policing, and the police station, by the way, even has opening and closing times. The police station has opening and closing times that are supposed to like indicate or further indicate to me this idea of like self-monitorization. It's like it changes the definition of what constitutes an emergency. Because if your interpretation of that is that an emergency is something you unplanned for, that you do not see coming, how can you then box the time slots to call the police? How is that even a thing? I was just really shocked by the opening, closing times and break time. I'm like, really? And there's like no one there to take any complaints, any emergencies. And I found that really very odd. But not at all odd now that I've been here for a moment. I see now that the society really like self-regulates. And returning to the conversation or the talk of my daughter and what transpired at her school, the police now show up at the house because I have let her. I said to her, we're going to do things the way you want it done. We're going to report this guy because now at the school, he is harassing her. Okay, so you have someone, and this, by the way, this behavior, when it spirals into adulthood, when the person grows up and this behavior is continually abetted by the system, these are your Donald Trumps. These are your people who get older and think, oh, I can just take whatever, touch whatever, do whatever, and there's no repercussion, right? If you remember Donald Trump's hot mic synopsis, where he, or what does it say, snafus, whatever you want to call it, that moment when he was talking with that guy from E, I'm forgetting his name, but the Bush guy. Anyway, he basically had this hot mic moment where he divulged you can touch women on their private parts, right? And that's acceptable. Without their permission, like just you can do whatever you want with women when you've attained a level of fame or attained a level of money, of wealth. Anyway, so we went to the police station, and my daughter said what happened to her. It was a woman who took our thing, our statement, and she didn't even like write it down or anything, right? She didn't write it down or anything. It was not like your usual like, oh, I'm gonna write this statement here, blah blah blah. She just took it and she was like, okay, and she said she would follow up at the school and then she would like get back to me. So now they come here today. They come, and it is immediate intimidation. It is immediate. They're ringing my doorbell like back to back to back. I'm just thinking, who is that? Is that some prankster? Is that some kid outside like trying to like, I don't know. They're ringing my doorbell like incessantly. And I'm just thinking, who in God's name? I'm getting really disturbed and angry now. Like who is doing that? And I go to the door and I seat them. And I don't know how, but they access my apartment. So I didn't even like invite them in. They just like open the front door and they're like, they open the gang, whatever, the hallway. and they're like coming upstairs. I say, okay, you can come up, but I'm really surprised that they can open the door and just walk in. And I'm thinking, isn't, because I know I have tried to brush myself up on the law. And so according to one of their articles, I think it is, I'm not going to say because I'm not sure, but there's an article 17, I'm not sure. It says that the house is inviolable, right? You cannot just open some place and go in unless you expect or you suspect a case of like emergency. So in the case of like for a doctor to enter, for police to enter if they suspect like something dire, right? So to access my house and to just come upstairs, I don't even know how they did that or if that's even right. I highly doubt it. It just felt like they were just like trying to tell me like, you have no rights here. Okay? So they come upstairs and this man who comes with her is the same man who was pestering me for my information, my sexual information. And I see he has this like bothered look on his face. So I'm just thinking, okay, prepare for the worst because this guy looks way too hot and bothered, right? And his face is like red. He looks like he's really angry. He had to walk up all those stairs. And he's like, like, at the land on the stairs. And the commissaire, Schwab or something, Schwab, she comes and she says to me, she's much more cordial, but she says, so this regards the sexual assault you reported. She has a paper in her hand. I'm not quite sure if that's meant for me or what's happening, but she says, we spoke to the director. We will speak to the boy's mom, and she's saying all of this in German. Now, I had to ask her to go slowly because when she comes upstairs, now, first of all, I spoke to her one-on-one at the police station. She was speaking English to me. And then now she comes and she's speaking complete German. And I know this is because of the presence of the man, because she has a look of like flustered. She's a flustered sort of expression on her face. And so I suspect this is because of the man's presence, right? Because she wasn't looking flustered when she was at the police station. But she comes and she's like speaking German. And I go, I don't understand what you're saying. Okay, keep in mind, we are held here per force. We're not here of our own volition. We came of our own volition, but we would love to leave. I had a baby and I have paid the system thousands of dollars, way more than I would like to, because the same system decided, the same judge who like presided over our case decided, I'm going to not pay attention to the fact you're Americans and court and order you to appear here for the DNA testing at this time. And so all of this is being caused by the same system, because we were visiting, we left as tourists, right? For the 3 months, we came back as tourists. And in all of this, there's this lie that my daughter is German, according to by blood. And it's a lie because no one treats her like she's German. That's why it's a lie. And then they change it when I go to the immigration office. They change it and they say, upon clarification. And then even after clarification, it's no, that's not it. A month after the clarification, the law goes into effect. Okay, now we wait another month. Not so fast. After a month, you need her passport to show she's German. So it's not good enough that you say she's German. You have to show she's German. You have to show us that she's German. And so here we go for the passport. And there's a long list of things that we need to get to fulfill that, right? Because of our particular situation, it's not every day that someone comes to take the father to court and, and stays and what happens to us. I hope it's not every day. But the whole point is all of this, or even our presence here is per force. It's not like we want to stay here. And the treatment of us is like with such hostility and unreasonable behavior. So, regarding the sexual assault, for example, they say, um, there's nothing we can do. He's a small boy. What do you want us to do? Put him in jail? And I'm thinking to myself, what? Wow, so unreasonable. Why not? Let's back up a bit. Why not? Why can't we not make sure everything's okay in the boy's house? How does he know to carry out this act? How is it that he's aware of this act? Maybe let us see if everything's okay in the home. Why isn't a social worker involved? For example, the school has a social worker, and all that I've ever seen her do is accost me for leaving for picking my daughter late, and I mean stuff that's like non-issues, right? They make huge big deal of that, and yet the real issues they just put it under the mat and forget the fact that my daughter is German, forget the fact she's a child and she's been violated. Just like make it all go away by you, mom, shutting up, okay, quieting down, keeping it inside. Forget, who cares about your trauma in the past? Who cares if we have a problem and a backlog of therapists here? You need to just like snuff it. Your daughter, oh, that's too bad. But let's carry on as usual. And so and then they're looking at us with this, the guy on the steps, he's looking at us with this great distaste. You can sense the discrimination. You can feel the anger coming off his body. He's just there sweating and he is sweating and producing all this heat. His face is red. He's scowling. He just looks the epitome of just like an angry hot toad. You've put in maybe a pot of boiling water, right? He just looks like this scowling, angry thing. And we're here because we have to be here, while the same state takes their time giving us our papers. And it's all, a lot of the things in here are, a lot of the things, the issues here are catch-22. One thing affects another thing and has the same relationship with that main thing. So the same, we need one agency or one entity, for example, to move on our behalf, while needing the same requirement for them to move from another entity. So it's just like a impasse, like a lock, it's just like you can neither come nor go. A lot of these issues are catch-22, and our situation here is just like, it's like someone being assaulted, and you're just made to stay there and take the assault, right? Because here you have my daughter going through this. She needs to be she needs therapy. She needs to be seen by a doctor, and this boy, right? This boy, let's ask the correct questions. What's happening in that boy's home for him to do that and to even know about that? And so the wrong people are being called out or being harassed. That way they were like on my doorbell like that kind of very, like, you need to answer this doorbell now, that kind of like hurry. All of that stuff is psychological. It's made to intimidate you. It's made to make you rush, to make you hurry, to make you breathless, all that kind of behavior. And then to stand on the landing after coming inside without an invitation, to stand on the landing and to tell me, you're too upset. Of course I'm upset. My child was sodomized by a boy who no one is doing anything about, and who feels that he is in such a place of comfort that he can further instigate more trauma to her by not only sitting beside her at events where where everybody comes together, but also teasing her and approaching her in German and stuff. And she's like, well, what do you want us to do? Like, we can't put a little boy in prison. We don't need to put him in prison, but we do need to see what's happening in his home. We do need to get my daughter into some therapy, for one. And we do need to, somebody needs to like apologize and say, I'm so sorry this happened to you. If anything were to happen again, come to us, talk to us. We are there for you. No one has said this. And they want you to accept even sexual trauma and to swallow it and to say, it's okay, when there should be zero tolerance to it. And if that woman, I appeal to her, the commissaire, to speak to me as another mother, because I know she's there in our house as a policewoman, but I know as a mother, if that were to happen to her kids, and what she tried to do is try to say, my kids are at school, these things happen. We can't stop conflicts. These things happen. That's their excuse. That conflicts, and imagine the same society that tells its citizens in very innocuous ways, tells their citizens, hey, if you need to like call out other people on their problems, call them out, put them into the open, like, broadcast it. You send pictures to City Hall about rubbish and stuff. The same people who are doing that kind of behavior are now telling me that I must stop sexual abuse. This is why it's so disgusting, because rather than say it's unacceptable and we're going to call out that same behavior and shame that same behavior until it's stopped, they don't do that. They want you, the person who it happened to sit on it, to swallow it. My daughter, swallow it, keep it in. When she's up at night, sleepwalking and stuff, and she has been traumatized, sleep with it, deal with it. We don't care, as long as you don't make it come out into the public domain, as long as you don't make it, show signs of being traumatized or of being upset. Just like, let it go away. Just make it go away. But they're calling you out for rubbish and for speaking German. We were here for 2 weeks, and they were saying to us, speak German. We were here as tourists, and they're saying to us, speak German. Can you imagine? Your country comes to my country through the TV, through different, advertisement strategies, whatever, and compels me to come to Germany. And this is what I get. I come to Germany, and what do I get? Speak German. Are you kidding me? How about you learn the lingua franca? Because it is the lingua franca. And if the lingua franca were German, I don't think you would have so much people harumphing about it. The reason they're so upset is because they are nationalists who are not getting their way. They hate the fact that America is doing so well and that Americans are doing so well, and their insecurities are showing up in how they treat Americans and other people. We had people for the house. They call them the Hausmeister, right? He came here to fix something. And this man looks at me and says, Americans think they're all that, huh? And I go, what? Because America is not a monolith. America is a country, and quite frankly, it spans past its continental USA, right? It spans, America is like island America. American culture is in many places. It's really hard now to like pin down what a country is, even because of with the advancement of like the digital world, right? Like, what is really America? If we were not to label it a country or a nation, it could take on many other different names because it's everywhere. It's in movies. It's everywhere now. It's really permeated the world in so many ways, in so many definitions. You can't just say Americans and hate America, because you digest America when you watch a movie. You digest America when you and quite frankly, can we just move past the nationalist stuff already? Can we move past that stuff? Can we not unite on the front that we're all human beings? This man comes to my home and he's gonna take me to task about the fact that I'm American. I can do nothing about the fact that I'm American. This is something that happened to be the case. If he were American, he would be, quite likely defending America. But quite reasonably, I'm standing in the middle and I'm saying, hey, I don't really care about my American status as badly as it affects you. I am more concerned with the health of my child and, and various things and how I treat people. And he basically showed me in that little, comment and that question, that the reason why I'm being treated so hostilely is because of German insecurity. It's an insecurity. They probably know. They feel convicted that Americans are better than them. And that's what bothers them. If you don't feel America is better than you or Americans are better than you, it should be water off your back. And you wouldn't go around telling people all day to speak German. Especially people who your country is like inviting here. You're inviting tons of immigrants here, skilled workers, whatever. You're inviting people here, and then you're like angry they're here. Well, take it up with the government. Your elected, government. And anyway, this issue with my daughter and the sexual assault is basically showing how contradicting the state is, and how and the depths they will go, the extent they will go to be self-employed, to find employment for themselves, to find a purpose for themselves. Them being the bourgeoisie, if you may, right? Them being the upper class, whatever, the middle class, the average German, right? They who represent, what it is to be the state, because it's a shared identity, right, among all Germans or most Germans or whatever, or in Germanness. This identity is carried by each person, and this this idea of state is enacted by each person. They all are bits and pieces of the state. Jacques Chirac was like, l'état c'est moi. But these people, they're acting like they're all the state. They're all like little mini police. They're all like little polices. But it's so disgusting and perverse, their level or the extent to which they want to defend themselves against, others, that they're willing to bypass sexual assault, a disgusting, really perverse way of being in the world. I didn't think that, a country like Germany would actually defend this stuff. But here you have their people defending their sick behavior from this boy, right? From one of their own. Defending this because it's about us versus them. It's no longer about what's right here. And I saw that policewoman kind of struggle inside, because the one on the staircase who was huffing and puffing, he became so animated and disgusted, and he threw up his hands and he was like shouting, and I was just like, what the heck? And he was like pushing the thing to come back. What's he gonna do? What's he trying to do? Is he trying to like physically assault me or something? Why is he? And she's like telling him to calm down, at which point he like walks out. And I'm just thinking, first of all, what was he coming toward me to do? And then my daughter is right there. And of course it's gonna put me in a state of, and this is what they're so good at. They put you in a position of defense, and then they come at you and attack you for your position of defense. So this man is coming toward me rather confrontationally. I'm like, what's happening here? And I feel myself like brace for whatever. And then she's like attempting, I don't know if all this is performative, but either way, attempting to calm him down or saying something. And he walks out. And the minute he walks out, this is how I know this man was a kind of a maleficent force, right? Is she begins to speak in English to me the minute he leaves. And that tells me all I need to know. Because for this man to act like a unreasonable person when he represents the law, right? And he's going to look at me and come angry at me when my daughter was the one who was sexually assaulted. And he's coming at me angry as if I did something wrong. While we're like stood here and figuratively raped, figuratively sodomized by the state, and forced to sup it while I lose monies. I graduated from the University of Oxford 2 weeks ago. 2 weeks ago? 2 weeks ago. No, not even. Last week. And I'm unable to make money. I can't work. I cannot feed my house. I rely on charity to exist. And I've approached the embassy. I've tried so many avenues to try to get my voice out. And of course the media is complicit because they are part of the state, right? The media is a part of the state. And so they're acting in a place of like, we will protect the state. We will not air your story. too bad, you know. There are worse things happening in the world. Of course there are worse things happening in the world. But it does not mean I should be made, or my daughter should be made, to stop sexual abuse. I already was sexually assaulted in Korea, and now my daughter here. And their whole thing is to ask me, why am I mad? Why are you mad? How dare you be mad? You know, Germany doesn't want you. I could almost feel this energy from the male police, you know. Germany doesn't want you. The first thing the guy from the horses said was, get out of our country. Get out of our country. Leave our country. And I'm thinking to myself, wow, so he's really insisting this and thinking that Germans only speak German. Because he's like, speak German, you know, before he, get out of our country. Get off our land. And at this point I was really confused, because I didn't know if he meant get off the corral or get, you know, I wasn't even in the corral. I was like on the outside. Get off that land or get off, you know, get out of their country land. And so I was just thinking, wow, you know, these people, this is something. And then my daughter's witnessing all these things. And what does the police commissaire do? She comes to me and says to me, your daughter is there. You've got to keep it together. Your daughter is there. She doesn't see my daughter implode, because my daughter's there and they're strangers, and my daughter's in a state of anxiety too, and she doesn't know what's happening. She's like standing there. But she does not see when we are treated like this, and when all these things happen, how my daughter feels and acts it out at home, and what she says to me in private. She has no clue. And she thinks that me getting animated on my daughter's behalf, trying to compel them to do something reasonable, maybe talk to the boy, ask him, where did you learn how to do that? You know, where did you know, who gave you this idea? You're too young for this stuff. And she says, this happens. And I said to her, you know what? This must be a cultural issue. And she starts fanning me off. No, this is not a cultural issue. It's not a cultural issue. At this point, I think she's trying to like appease the man downstairs. She wants to be seen as doing something, you know, that he would like, which is to basically like, you know, curse at me, whatever. You're strange and weird. Get out of here. And this admonishment, this ostracization, this kind of like this behavior toward other people is what indicts these people, because they're so absorbed with being against American and anti-American that they're willing to let sexual assault go unpunished, or not even necessarily in this case, in the boy's case, to let it go without any kind of repercussion. No telling the boy, listen, when you see her, you leave her, you do not say anything to her, you do not tease her, you go your way. And she's saying, what are you proposing? That the boy like hides himself and doesn't go to school? I'm thinking, wow, do we have to go to the extreme? And the very acting that out, it just goes to show you they think, you know, they are thinking in terms of extreme. And we don't need to be extreme. We can all hold our heads and collectively decide to do something that makes sense and that works, so that my daughter, who was the one who was sodomized, is not hyperventilating to go to school. And what has happened in the classroom? In her classroom, her teacher is now punishing her by calling her behavior, calling things she does or says out. So if she complains to me about something and I write to the teacher, she calls her out in the classroom with it, saying, well, why did your mom get upset, huh? Why don't you tell the class? How disgusting is that? And when that, you know, fails or whatever, she is now doing silent treatment. So she just like hands my daughter something, doesn't explain it. And this, by the way, goes into even the way that she is teaching my daughter, because of the barrier, the language barrier. When my daughter asked for clarification, she says, we speak German here. We speak German here. Speak German to her in the class. Completely ignoring the fact that Germans also ask for clarification. I mean, this is not a language issue per se. This is also an issue of this is an issue of translation, which is not always concerning languages, right? It may be that a German speaker needs further clarification of something. It may be that, they didn't understand the question. The question could be taken two ways. And so it's a matter of interpretation. So it's not that she is doing anything wrong by asking for clarification and saying, oh, just figure it out. That's what they tell her, just figure it out. How are you going to figure out something with no accommodation? Can I be suddenly inserted into Japanese culture and expected to just take it in and know, especially within weeks, which is the expectation here? Can I be inserted into Turkey and expected to just suddenly come into some understanding of Turkish? Surely I would need years. And what we're asking for is basically a crutch to make us able to function on the level, or in this case, my daughter, of other German children. So maybe no sexual assault. Maybe is it too much to ask for, someone to run the school in a way that stops these kids from being so lawless? But the same, that same way of self-governing, self-monitoring, it makes kids, it makes the children, it forces the children to take this on. And, children do not have any idea about discipline. And so they do not hold back. These kids curse all day. They show signs of wanking all day. They are constantly obsessed with their groin area. And the school, nothing comes of it. And so in so many ways, the ball is just being dropped because of their own system of regulate yourself, and figure it out. And my daughter is going to school in this scenario. And this is not, again, about entitlement. This is about reasonable expectations. A person, especially because she is German, coming into the society in an attempt to assimilate. She was the one who said, I want to go to Germany. I want to learn German. I want to learn about the culture. I want to know my dad. She wanted Germany. She wasn't asking for America. She didn't say, I want Germany to become America and to go there. She asked to assimilate to the the German culture. And so there has to be a level of accommodation for that. Especially when you're testing kids, you're testing them, you're saying, okay, complete this next time. There has to be an accommodation beforehand. And you can't have a teacher who gets upset at you because you reported a sexual assault, who one day talks, to the class about you and puts you on the spot in a disparaging way, a way meant to intimidate you and meant to put you down. And the next day, complete silent treatment. And the next day, something else, hot, cold. And at no point you're accommodating the child and saying, think about what that could mean. What do you think an coma means or book coma means, right? Or what's the difference? Because many of these things are not open, or not. The interpretation is not autological. It's something you need instruction about, and it's just there's none. And because you're American, the minute the man left, the commissaire, the female police, began to speak in English in an attempt to cross that point of obfuscation. And rightly so, because how silly it would be for us to be on the landing, one person speaking another language, the other person speaking. I'm doing my best to learn German as quickly as I can, but I do not understand all the words coming out of her mouth at the pace she was speaking. And it is reasonable to say, if you're going to come to my house, that you, because you know this in advance, would come with some kind of, maybe an English speaker or someone to interpret, right? And they didn't do that. She came with a bully, someone to push me and to further assault me and to make me feel intimidated. And it's not going to work. I'm too knowledgeable to be intimidated. And I did nothing wrong, so I have no fear about being intimidated. I did nothing wrong. My daughter did nothing wrong. And we're not going to accept this narrative of punishing the victim. We are not stupid. We don't belong in the cave era. We're not there. We're not there. And we're not going back there. Not for now. And I do not and I will not pretend to be stupid to accommodate people's biases. Here you have a child who is sexually abused. It's really simple. There should be protocols in place that deal with sexual assault and that are immediately implemented if such a thing occurs. And you shouldn't be asking me, what should we do then, Mom? What should we do then? You should come with that answer yourself from professionals who have told you what to do. And the answer should include finding out from the boy that you asked for my advice. Find out from the boy's parents if he is safe and if he is not exposed to any kind of sexual pedophilia or stuff himself. How does he know about that stuff? It's worrisome that he's enacting that on other kids if he is not sexually assaulted himself. How has he come into that awareness? How does he know about these things? And maybe some instruction too. Hey, when you see this little girl who you sexually assaulted, you're going to be careful around her. You're not going to throw things in front of her way and say certain things. You're going to toe the line. How about that? How about we start there? You know, it's just absolutely unreasonable to come and say, do you want us to throw him in prison? What kind of nonsense is that? Why don't we go where it's reasonable? And I'm so sick of these tiny villages because they're so backward here. It's like, am I really going to have to explain to you how to be reasonable? And they're so biased. They only take up for their own way. They only defend their own way, and they will refuse to see logic or to see it any other way than their way. And I've been trying to see this from different angles. I've been navel gazing at myself. You know, how can I approach them in a way that has them not see me as a threat, as a black person, you know, this automatic idea that I'm a threat or that I was threatening because I raised my voice. I am allowed to be disgruntled if a boy touches my daughter, especially in the way he did it. And I'm allowed to do that and to defend my daughter. I'm allowed. And it should be completely reasonable to take a statement from me and to say, okay, we'll follow up here. And to do it with smile and concern. You know, with a smile as in with good behavior and with genuine concern. That's reasonable. And my daughter is there, and so you shouldn't come with like a kind of, you know, interrogating, like bullying kind of way, this freaking, you know, ram goat of a man, you know, who wants to just come in and bulldoze over me and tell me what's up, as if, you know, I caused this to happen to my daughter. I don't even want to be around the police. And here's how alarming the bias goes. We were on the bus and the driver, you know, pressed his brakes while he took off. He accelerated, not his brakes, the gas. He accelerated when we were just on the bus, while we were finding our seats. This DB guy, the guy who works for DB, right? And he does that, and then we're launched off our feet. But where we are in the bus when this happens, we foolishly were going toward the back of the bus to sit down, right? Because the front, and that guy, you know, he's already done that to me before. So we were going toward the back. So we had passed several people, and were launched off our feet. I shouted, "Driver!" You know, at the minute it was happening, because I had my 5-day infant in my arms. 5-day, no harness on him, going to Freiburg to try to buy something for him, to also try to go buy a bus pass for the month. And this driver purposely does this. And I know it's purpose because he does it all the time I'm boarding, right? And the behavior is different to me than to other people. And my daughter's also like, you know, whoa, what just happened? And we went back to the front of the bus, and I sit down and I say, you know, I should have called the police. I said, this is disgusting. What does the driver do? He stops the bus. He tells me to get off it. And then he proceeds to call the police. He, hearing me say I should have called the police about his behavior, I believe his own fear and ego overtook, not even ego, that kind of person, he has not developed past his id. He is in such a state of childishness that he is in that like a baby, you know, that me, only me, you know, my will, you're, you know, for the streets, you're low down, you're under me, racist basically. right? And then I stay on the bus with my two children, and I wait for the police. They come. I explain why we were going to Freiburg. I explain what happened. The police does a very, very sad job of an investigation. He basically asks. Now, all the people on the bus were inconvenienced. No one knew what happened. This is to tell you that I didn't do anything that was criminal. No one knew what happened, right? I heard a woman speaking in French, and she was like, "Mom, I don't even know what happened here. I just see the driver stop, and he wants this woman to get off the bus," right? Another guy, he immediately comes to the front of the bus to see what's going on. He's like Moroccan or something. He comes to the front, he sees me, he tells the driver, "Hey, she's a little small child," he's like explaining, you know, why I was like alarmed, right? He's like, she's a small baby. And the driver's like, "Yeah, whatever," right? And because he's already called the police at this point, so he has to just swallow what he's done. And when the police come, I explain what happened, and they're gonna tell me that, oh, the driver won't press charges at this point. What would he say? What did I do? I didn't do anything. What would he press charges and say? And so, and my daughter's just like, again, this has been one thing after the next in this racist town where we are. And here's how crazy it is. My daughter's being affected by each of these things, and the policewoman is going to call out my righteous indignation rather than say in those situations, "Oh, you were mistreated, blah blah blah." She's not there conveniently. But when it is something where I am sent for myself, "Oh, how dare you?" And the bus driver comes, says some lies to the policeman, right? Because I understood the French woman was speaking, and someone came to pick her up. Someone came to pick another girl up, and the guy on the bus who saw most things, the guy who came to the front, when he was giving something, he said, "I didn't see anything. I cannot say anything." And that was the most honest statement, because usually in the case of eyewitness accounts, you can't even really depend on your own eyes, because you think you saw something and it was something completely different. And this is aided by the fact that you didn't expect to be alert. So what you saw, you can't really believe sometimes your own, what you can recall, because it's biased. It is poor recall. Anyway, there's a slew of reasons why eyewitnesses are not very justifiable. But having said that, everyone's story, if they provided one, should kind of put together some semblance of the truth, right? Instead, you have this white boy with blonde hair who is sitting out of our line of sight. He was before us. We passed him, and he's gonna say, "Oh, the driver drove off like normal. There was nothing. He didn't do anything, out of character. So it was like normal." So he didn't even see us, because, like I said, we passed him already. And the person conducting the investigation didn't even check that. He didn't ask me, "Where were you sitting?" to know if the boy was not giving a biased report. And when I said to him, "But my daughter experiences too. She's not just an eyewitness. She's also the person it happened to as well." He's like, "Well, she's biased. She's a biased review because she's your daughter." And I'm thinking, oh, so something can happen to her, and she's not to be believed because she is she's my daughter and she's underage. Got it. So then that would explain a lot as to why they don't take her seriously regarding the sexual assault, because she's a child. But they will protect their own. The other boy, nothing will come of it. He walks around at school like he owns a place. He goes as far as to kick a bag in front of my daughter. This shows you how unbothered he is, and to tease her after sodomizing her, and nothing comes of it. This is Germany.